Welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm your host, Sean Anderson for Ponca City Public Schools. And this is where we sit down with the coaches of Pohai Athletics and we talk Pohai sports. And we have the head coach of the Pohai cross country team, Coach Wendy Landes, is our special guest today. And Coach Landes, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Now, the cross country, once a season, you get a home meet.
Yes, we do.
Right, and that was September 15th.
Yes, it was a couple weeks ago, but it was packed.
It was okay.
Unlike any other year where we've had just a few teams show up, we actually had a very full course, and so it was busy most of the day.
Yeah, well, the great thing about this year is our Pohai cross-country team is hosting regionals, and we'll talk more about that coming up before regionals. We need to talk about conference coming up in Choctaw on the 11th, and tell us about what you expect at conference.
I'm expecting really big things with our athletes this year. You know, you set a running schedule and you want them to follow it by taking times off every week, and you're gearing your practices harder and harder to hit those times, and they are this year. They're taking off and setting personal best every time we go to another meet. Wow. So I'm really looking forward to what we can do in conference compared to the previous years. You know, Choctaw typically wins our conference in cross country year after year after year, but this year I'm a little bit excited on both fronts to see Bert, our senior. You know, he went to state last year. He's doing exactly what we want him to do as far as times, and then we have JC Davis, a freshman that's coming in as our top girl, chased right by Julia, who ran last year, and several others, Kelly Jo Van Heusen coming back, and Lauren Scott, and then we have it's a young team as far as the girls, but I'm excited to see what we can actually do since it's setting up to be the perfect little storm there.
Team leaders, you probably already mentioned some of them, but just to mention them again, they're always showing up. When they're out there practicing, they're inspiring the others.
They are. We have four, and that's what we choose as our captains. We have Lauren Scott and Annie Leeming. Those are our girl captains who do multiple sports, but they're motivating the younger kids and the older kids. And then we have Jack Bush and Bert Minor as our senior boy captains, and Bert is actually also doing a dual internship with the cross country, so he's helping more of a leadership role, coaching the junior high with us as well. So nice. It's kind of exciting to see how they're pouring in, and the program keeps getting bigger and doing well.
Yeah. Well, as we mentioned earlier, the cross country team once a year gets one meet at home. Just the way it works out. And is that pretty typical?
Yeah, you said it. You don't have to necessarily host it, but typically you want to host one every year. That way you can get as many as you can there, as many of your fans there. Yeah.
Right. Well, this year is special because the Pohai cross country team is hosting the regionals, and that's a big deal, isn't it?
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
It's exciting for Ponca City, but it's exciting for us to get to run that first playoff. You know, regionals is what determines who goes to state. Right. It's those top 20 in state that get to, or top 20 in regionals that get to go to that state meet, and for it to be on our home course, we're looking forward to it. But not only do we get to have more people come to this side of the state that typically hasn't got to see and run on the lake. It's the most I think it's the most perfect course to run on. But we have a really good course out there, so I'm excited for 5A and 6A to run out there on October 22nd.
Oh, it's going to be great. How many teams are coming in for that?
Usually you'll have, I think it's 12 teams come, between 12 and 16 teams come. They split it up. I think Mustang has the other regional. So you only get to 2 regionals in the state. So half the state comes here and half the state will go there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we've heard in other sports, we hear the home field advantage, home court advantage. Is there a home course advantage? Absolutely, I'm thinking.
There is, because you know the course, but our course is typically a faster course, and so everybody sets up to do well. There's some hills, but you get a downhill, and you know, we've ran it multiple times, but our meet was so early this year that several of those other teams also came to our meet, so I'm just excited on how it's going to play out.
What's the toughest course in your
that we ran?
Yeah, that you ran.
Carl Albert typically is one of our hardest courses because there's 300 to 400 runners in each race, and it's just grueling because of the weather. And this year it just poured rain, and it was just miserable, and you slide everywhere and you don't get traction. But that was probably our hardest one this year. Wow. And so, because we've ran a couple of courses twice, but I think probably I would say Carl Albert this year, just because it's never okay with weather. It's either raining or it's 120.
Right. Well, coming up October 22nd, mark your calendar, if you will, put that in your phone, your device. and market to be there to cheer on our Wildcat cross country team at regionals. And how does it work? I mean, what time do you start running?
They typically start at 9 o'clock. You just have basically two 6A races, two 5A races, because we'll host the 5A as well.
Mm-hmm.
But they start at 9, and then they just run them until you're done. And they just keep lining up. There's a girls and a boys and a girls and a boys, and they run them until they're done. But typically it starts out there about 9. So.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Head coach Wendy Landes of the Pohai cross country team. Coach, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
That is the very latest, and remember those dates: October 11th in Choctaw for the conference, and then October 22nd, that's the big one coming up, regionals hosted by our Pohai cross country team. And that is going to do it for this edition of Coach's Corner. Until next time, Wildcats, hold that line.